And then you fight his master, and like so many times over many, many years, but then in this epic kind of samurai battle.
You started it. You started it.
I want to talk to you. The thing I've been most excited to talk to you about is Darth Maul's journey could maybe, possibly be considered one of the greatest journeys in the Star Wars canon. From being just completely destroyed to literally building himself back up. When you were talking about Luke, it surprised me how close their stories are, and it's really just a difference in who they fight for. Did you ever think you would be playing a character from the dark side? And what does Maul sort of mean to you?
He's not a very nice guy. You know that, right? He's
Not at all.
Well, at first it was simply, I feel like it was a treading water maneuver, because we're talking about a character that was already accepted and loved by the fans, and by the time that I was asked to step in there and do the voice and help create a persona for this guy, it was like, well, people already love him. You can almost only lose, because to everyone, Darth Maul had whatever personality they wanted him to have. So how the hell were we going to create a personality that would make everyone happy? And somehow we seem to have gotten away with it. So that's it. Yeah, I'm just happy that we survived it. But in terms of his journey, I feel like I'm still learning about it, because we got some new stuff coming up where he's doing some very different things that we've ever seen him try to do. But he's, if Star Wars is about, like I said, the whole ascent to becoming a complete and moral adult, Maul is a guy who maybe isn't going to get there because he's trapped in his own cycle. He's trapped in this circle of obsession, and he is not reflective enough to kind of break out of that. And so I think he's the example that the opposite example from Luke. Luke is the example of someone who has to be reflective in order to grow, and Maul is too busy blaming everyone else for his problems. So I think that's maybe the way that they're different.
Does he think he's a hero to himself?
Maul?
Like a good character wise is like a character. Everybody thinks they're the hero in their own story. Does he think he's the hero in his story?
In these new episodes? Yeah. You better believe it. I can't tell you what's in those episodes, but oh yes, more than ever does he think he's the hero of his own story.
Are we talking Rebels?
The episodes that you guys haven't seen.
Yes! Keep these things in here. So excited to see Maul's return. I was shocked to see him in Solo, just popping up, ready to sling a blade again. He's phenomenal. I think the villains are a huge reason why a lot of us came into Star Wars. As great as it is to see heroes succeed and have these like crazy adventures, my gosh, there's very few series, fandoms, whatever you want to call them, that have villains that are this deep, that are this intriguing, that are this sympathetic. Bob, I wanted to ask you, as you're doing research for your books, as you're learning about the original villain, Palpatine, what were maybe some of the fun things you learned about him that are not maybe known to the general audiences?
Well, off the top of my head, not even Coruscant was named until after the movies. It was thanks to Timothy Zahn, who authored the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy.
Great human being.
Yeah.
I love Timothy, he's really sweet.
Palpatine was originally, actually, if you look at the original Star Wars, you'll recall the line from Moff Tarkin. He's talking to Vader, he says, "You, my friend, are the last of their religion." So at that point in time, Vader was the only one who wielded the Force aside from Luke and Ben Kenobi. So as Lucas developed the story into sequels, at that point, that's when Palpatine came to be a Force wielder and significant in what Lucas had in mind. That's what I found that was interesting. Lucas was basically making it up as he was going along. He did not know that the first film was going to be that successful.
Vader died, didn't he?
No.
Oh, no. In the original script, he did. And Lucas decided to keep him alive because he's like, oh, this is kind of working. This character's working.
At the end, I'm sorry, let's rewind. At the end of A New Hope, did Vader die in the
New
original
Hope,
script?
He said, add a shot where Vader is spinning off into the distance.
Well, I'm just going off the movie.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
He lives in the movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
This is fast. I had no idea that we almost didn't get an Anakin. That is wild.
With Maul dying in episode 1, that it just wasn't, Lucas wasn't thinking in terms of, oh, he's the Vader of the, he wasn't thinking that way, because Vader was a villain of the week. Like the same way you go to the movie serials and you see the dastardly villain, oh, he gets defeated, he's gone. Next villain next week. You
Yeah,
know?
Vader
Lucas
was
had
basically disposable.
Yeah, Lucas had all these ideas that, like, you know, he's kind of engaged in a little revisionist history, which is cool, I get it. Where he had all these ideas, but he also knew he could not fit them all in one movie. So he did, when he finally managed to get the screenplay done for the first one, he did write it as in like a standalone film. You know, if it does well, fantastic. But like, you know, so these other ideas I have, well, I'm gonna have to tweak them so they can fit into this one movie. And so
I used to teach film kids how to use social media and things, and we, you know, found a common ground in Star Wars. And I would tell them that, like, listen, we can look at George Lucas as a prime example of having many great ideas, but being open to edits, being open to our creative crews around us. George did such a wonderful job in establishing an amazing universe, and he had just, who else but him could have, you know, brought this into the world. But then, and again, as we think of Star Wars as something not just the movies, not just the novels, not just the toys, not just the cartoon series, but also the fan fiction, but also our head canons. I think it's a community of people who've made something truly beautiful, and a huge universe that we can spend so much time in. And I wonder, do you guys have a favorite place to spend time in Star Wars? And that, I mean, either a book or a movie, or even like a scene. Like from the prequels, I really like it when Anakin and Padme are just in love, and I can just chop around it and be like, no, this is just like a peaceful, beautiful place where these people are happy.
She shouldn't be dating him.
She should.
No.
No. It's weird all the way around. Their ages don't quite match up. A lot of
She's such an enabler.
questions.
Such an enabler.
For me, it's the flight scenes.
Ooh.
Because see, look, the flight scenes in the original trilogy, George Lucas is into speed. He's into racing, and so the Death Star trench when the X-wings are diving in, and you get that exhilarating perspective. You know, you are a part of that scene. You are in that X-wing, and everything's rushing past you, and all the lasers are flashing toward you, and Darth Vader's zooming in on your back. You know, that's very exciting. And you've got to blow up the Death Star very soon, or they're going to blow up the Yavin 4, you know. In Empire Strikes Back, you've got the snowspeeder scene where they're looking for Han Solo. And George wisely made that sort of, in a way, interactive. You know, you've got the over-the-shoulder shots of the pilots as they're going over the snowbanks. And the camera's going up and down over the mountains. And then in Return of the Jedi, the speeder bike scene. You know, exhilarating. Those are the moments that I look forward to.
Definitely. Sam?
Anything to do with the Force.
Oh, the magic stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the magic stuff. I mean, everything in the, everything from Luke on Dagobah to Ben Kenobi even talking about the Force in the original film to Bendu in Star Wars Rebels. I mean, just like there's, I love that stuff.
That's my next tattoo. I'm really excited to get it. I'm obsessed with Bindu. Great Jedi's forever. So let me just drop a fan favorite bomb then. How do you feel about the midichlorians? Did that at all take away from the magical experience, if that was your favorite aspect of it, or did it have
For
to?
me?
Yeah.
No, because I knew that he wasn't saying the midichlorians were the Force. The Force is still the Force. You know, the idea that the Force is, that the Jedi are one group of practitioners that have learned to use certain aspects of the Force. But, you know, when working on the Clone Wars, it was really rewarding to watch the prequels and go, I think George is saying that the Jedi are not the be-all, end-all of how this works. Like, they're great. It's at heart a very good organization, but they're one organization and there's more to it, and they're trying to learn about this Force thing. And then in talking with Dave in the Clone Wars episodes that explored that, where George further explored that he makes it explicit that there are things about the Force that the Jedi are not privy to just yet. So I thought there were, when you take it as everything together, I think there's plenty of mystery left to what that is.
All right, guys, I'm going to ask them one more question, and then I'm going to open it to Q&A, so be thinking about what you want to ask, and I'm just going to kindly remind everybody we're asking questions, okay? No stories. Cool. So you guys have all been fans for decades, years and years of your lives invested in this incredible series. Now that you're actively a part of either telling the history or creating new characters or designing and drawing aspects of it, what responsibility do you feel you have as a creator to the series and to the fandom?
Wow.
Well, if you're asking me, the books that I'm writing here, they're in tribute to the filmmakers, everybody that was involved. I'm not talking about just George Lucas's vision. I'm talking about everybody's vision, everything that I can find that's been published, either put online or in my research trips to Rancho Obi-Wan or Skywalker Ranch or the main library at Cambridge. I've gathered all these stories, and it's basically a tribute to the filmmakers, credit where it's due. It's my honor to do that.
Yeah.
In my artwork, I'm always just trying to capture the excitement and energy that I felt the first time I saw Star Wars, and it was just, if I could use the word romantic, it's an old school romantic, adventure that just still warms my heart, I just love it.
Yeah.
To say the lines they put in front of me, say them well. No, I mean, I feel like anything that, just serving to the best of my understanding what George's beliefs were when it came to this story, what George's take was. It's not widely known that Clone Wars was George's show and that he was there, like, guiding the whole thing and saying,
Now we're doing a story about poison tea on Mandalore, and now there's Force witches. There's witches on the planet.
Can we call him Dathomir?
Sure, whatever. They're witches.
Can you just do the rest of this in George's voice?
Yeah, sure.
If I have any function, it's simply in serving that mythology, and again, to the best of my understanding of what it is that George would have wanted, and trying to make it as little about me as possible, because making it too much about oneself is the path to the dark side. So.
Thank you guys so much. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to ask you guys to use your theater voices, project to the back so we can hear you. I see a lightsaber up. What's up, guy?
Question for Sam. Two questions, actually. Will we ever see the brother, sister, and father again? Maybe in the Clone Wars?
The Mortis characters from the Mortis episodes? Well, you saw them in Rebels. Isn't that enough?
No! We need more!
Let me ask you, I'm going to answer your question with a question. If I knew, would I tell you?
We like to, and my other question was, if they were bringing Star Killer to the theaters, I hope they do, would you like to reprise that role?
I don't know if I'm available, man. I don't know if I can do it. I don't have time. I would surely love to do anything that they'd ask me to do. But the Mortis thing, again, it's talking about mystery to the Force. When George Lucas came up with those stories, everyone was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What did George say we were doing?
Yeah, there's a father, there's a son, and there's a daughter, and if you don't get on board, you're fired.
He didn't say that.
But he would have been right because they're the best. Who else? Questions? Sir?
I have a question for all you. Would they ever do a more backstory on Boba Fett or IG-88, some of the bounty hunters?
The question for those who maybe couldn't hear was, would there be more stories on the bounty hunters?
Like more in depth?
More in depth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they are. I would love it if they would, because one of my favorite scenes in Empire is just seeing all the bounty hunters, and I would love to. I feel like there's like a lot of drama in between all of them.
Oh, yeah,
You know, I feel like Boba Fett gets all the glory, and some of the other ones are a bit resentful of it. So it's like you and your fancy armor.
I think there are some backstories told in what used to be called the Expanded Universe stories in the comics, the Dark Horse comics, but now it's called Legacy, so you'd have to look that up. But as for IG-88, if you saw the trailer for The Mandalore, you'll see IG-88 in that, and he goes berserk. His body, if you haven't seen it, his body is like a praying mantis he's like, or a pretzel, he's staying straightened up. His head is rigid, while the rest of his body rotates, his arms are out, firing lasers all over the place. It's very exciting.
I don't like it, it's terrifying.
What can I say? But if you're an IG-88 fan, you'll see him in that.
I feel like your previous answer of if I knew, would I tell you applies here. So I'll just tell you guys that last year at this convention, I sat down with Mr. Tim Zahn and asked him a very similar question, which was if you could pitch one of the independent movies. Rogue One had just come out and we were discussing, if you could pitch just a movie in the Star Wars universe, which story would you want to tell? And he said he wanted to do a feature-length story of Han being trapped in the Carbonite and all of the bounty hunters coming to steal Han so they could win the prize over. Tim is amazing. He's brilliant. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
My question is for Sam. So, there's heroes, there's villains. Pretty much what draws you. It seems like you play a lot of villain roles. In general, voice and acting. The dark villains. What do you like about it the most? Getting into character.
What do I like about villains the most?
Yes. You play one, you get into the character, and just.
I think the biggest challenge with villains is to try to make the audience agree with them, because they're not nice. They're nice people. But I mean, when people say I feel so bad for Darth Maul, and I'm like, I feel bad for the kids on that planet when he was telling to say, Savage, here's how we do things. See those kids over there? Yes, yeah. Well, we're gonna kill them, and that's gonna get the Jedi to come in. I feel bad for those kids.
Bad that like you're gonna just terrify like little kids, and as they get older, they just never know what they should say when they realize when they look at you and see, oh, this is the guy that's the voice behind that.
So she's telling me, do you feel bad for the kids that you're traumatizing? Something along those lines. That's what you just said. Yeah, now I do. Now that you're telling me that.
I mean, you have a face of like, oh, the nice guy, but you play this.
Really? Because I think the reason I get all the villain roles is this Cro-Magnon brow that's attached to the top of my face.
Hero, villain, doesn't matter, but you're great at the darker roles. So I just worry for little kids.
You're just worrying for the children? Is that what you're saying? The whole question, guys, was for the benefit of the children. Just think of the children. Look, the whole thing with the villain, with any villain role is I think, if there's a challenge to it, is again, trying to make the stuff sound as reasonable as possible. And when your face is red with tattoos and there's horns coming out of your face, it's an even bigger challenge to make what comes out of his mouth sound reasonable. But I'm weirdly, strangely delighted that people feel bad for Maul or any of these not so nice characters. Because they sure feel bad for themselves.
You're
Let me
doing
tell
such
you.
a good job that I feel like you've made him oddly he's just oddly relatable now. It's like somebody's just fallen into a bad crowd, made some bad decisions.
Go
and,
get coffee with them.
Life had been different. Could have been a good guy.
Sam, I'd like to throw a compliment your way. When you were on Once Upon a Time, you were playing Mr. Hyde, and Mr. Gold was force choking you, and you had your head back, and you're choking, but at the same time laughing. And that was, to me, was amazing.
Thank you, yeah. Yeah, well, I remember that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
that was amazing.
Thank you very much. That was another bad for him, so. But that's the thing, the villain never thinks they're the villain, unless it's Palpatine. I think he probably knows it and doesn't care. He's like, that's great, I'm the villain, this is amazing.
Ooh, I know what I want to ask you guys. As fans, For Star Wars Celebration, they released the new trailer. If you guys follow me on IG, there's a video of me weeping hysterically at it. It was maybe the most beautiful trailer in the history of Star Wars. Stunning, shocking, thrilling, that end. How did you guys hear when you heard Palpatine's voice? Just as fans, like not even as creators or part of the Star Wars universe.
I was excited about the opportunities of what this might bring from a storytelling perspective, absolutely.
Yes.
I always, I can't answer. I always know a little bit more than I should.
Okay, that's fair.
So it wasn't as surprising to me.
Sam's cool, guys.
That's not, I'm sorry. No. Here's the thing, I don't really know much about what's happening in that, but that was something that I was aware of.
That's
that
fair.
part.
That's
I need to
okay.
answer all my questions like that, make me sound more important. I
No,
know
I'm
things
not
I can't
important.
tell. Oh, the things I know.
No, because the real reason I'm like hesitant to say that is because people tell me things they shouldn't, and I'm going to get people in trouble. That's basically it. Like, why does Witwer know this? This is stupid.
The burden of being in the industry is very real, guys. How about you as a fan? You hear Palpatine?
Well, it really alters what happened at the end of Return of the Jedi, doesn't it? Was Darth Vader's sacrifice worth it? But I can only speculate. Maybe it will work. I mean, I'm happy that Ian McDiarmid is going to be involved. He's a wonderful actor, so we'll give the filmmakers a chance. Let's see how they make it work. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, it's an adventure. More questions from the audience. You, sir.
Was, in terms of playing the insane version of Maul when we first pick up with him in Clone Wars, was it harder to get into it or come out of it? I mean, look, it was just really embarrassing because I just kind of went into the booth and just kind of went nuts. The permission I asked from Dave Filoni, I'm like, because they never wrote what he said in there. They just said that he was mumbling to himself. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to say something. So you don't mind if I go, I'm like, you don't mind if I go a little Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now with, sitting in that cave saying all kinds of things about the honeybees. For those of you that understand that reference. Yeah, so I just made up a bunch of weird stuff. I will say this, it was fun to go, wait a second, what would he be doing? He would be, well, if he was trying to piece together his own mind, he would be holding on to what training he had. So what if part of this is a conversation with his master in his head? And I'm like, and that's a great opportunity to make the Sith code canon, because if I say any part of it, and it's in the episode, it's canon, sorry. So it's like, yeah, I gotta, whoever wrote the Sith code, I'm gonna give them some props here. I'm gonna do that. So I started saying things that were vague and around that. But yeah, it's not, it's exhausting to do that stuff. But they seem to like it, so.
It was so good. I love Maul's time in the cave, especially when he gets the spider legs. My fave. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What are our plans to visit Galaxy's Edge at Disney?
Girl, I was at Disney the week before it opened. I was crushed that we did not plan better, but I did see some of the outlines and little things. As soon as I have the cash to go, I will be there, first in line. It looks amazing. We need it. Have you done the VR yet? Did you do the VR experience? Guys, if you haven't done it yet, get yourself to Disney and do the Star Wars VR experience. Mind blowing.
Which VR?
So good.
Is it The Void?
Yes.
Ah, I did that.
It's wonderful, right?
We recorded all the voices at my house, at my studio. And,
What?
And I'm the guy in the blue that's telling you what to do.
Ow, that's so cool.
Did you see how I just took that and made it about me? This is that I said Star Wars should be about me?
You are in the Star Wars, so it's going to be a little bit about you. K2SO is in it, and at one point you have to face Darth Vader, and I've literally never been more terrified in my life. He's real. He's like as big as, oh my God, no, it's awesome. It's so good. How about you guys? Are we going to Star Wars to do Star Wars land stuff?
Who is it?
That's also a good question.
Hopefully by around the holidays, I've got a bunch of deadlines. Unfortunately, busy, so around, hopefully
Christmas
around
and Star
Halloween. Because I
Wars?
love going to Disneyland around Halloween too, so.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna combine it into one big nerd fest.
The goth Disney people are my favorite. They're so imaginative. Their love for the Haunted Mansion ride is bizarre and
My
beautiful.
girlfriend loves the Haunted Mansion, so.
Bizarre and beautiful. I
Yeah.
love them.
It's fantastic.
Hi, but Mr. Sam, Mr. Cool, Mr. I know things early.
They haven't invited me. How cool is that? No, I don't know. No, I'll go at some point, for sure. I can't wait.
Definitely. You, sir, all the way in the back.
This question's for Sam. How do you feel about Starkiller from Force Invasion not being canon?
How do I feel about Starkiller not being canon? I always felt as if the Starkiller thing was more of a Jedi tall tale, because what was sold to George about that was that we would amp up the Force powers to 11 for the purposes of the video game, right? For those purposes. Those were the conditions. And if you play the game, all of the Jedi, Vader and Shakti and all those characters, all of their Force powers are also suitably amped to 11. So I think the idea that he's not purely canonical, I always thought that was sort of going to be, like, something very much like this happened, and there was a Vader's Apprentice, and these events generally occurred, but did he kill 500 stormtroopers in a TIE fighter facility by throwing them in the air like this? Not, maybe 3. Did he pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky? I don't know, maybe he mind-tricked the pilot to go like that. Because that, let's be honest, that's a lot less work, isn't it? You're like, you guys like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. Is that weird? Like, that's how I would pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky. Like, man, you're so powerful. Be like, no, smart. So yeah, my thing is, I always took it that way. I always took it as this is a tall tale. This is a Jedi tall tale where everything is blown up to mythic proportions. And that was the way that, it was supposed to be. I will say this, though. It's nice to see other Jedi and various other Star Wars things pull some Starkiller moves, like, the Force Repulse. That's mine. That belongs to me.
Sam, you're blowing my mind because in a way, if you think about it as having been a legend already and now it's just in Star Wars Legends, it just works. It's amazing. I love that. Other questions? You, sir.
Okay, so my question was for Sam. I heard that you were a big Star Wars D&D fan when you were younger. Right now is the
D&D Live?
Exactly. There's a new sort of Edge of the Empire storyline that are out now. It's the whole line of those books, and some of my friends are wondering, would you ever consider a celebrity sort of guest appearance for something like that online?
A celebrity guest appearance for...
It would be online. The website itself.
I'm going to jump in real quick. So I don't know if you know, Sam, but people are playing D&D and videotaping it and live streaming it.
What?
Joe Manganiello does one, and it's bananas. There's a whole crazy group of critters. Critical Role is the name of the show. They raised something like $4 million. Was it more than that? It was a ton of money in like 2 days to fund an animated version of the D&D campaign they played live. It's a ton of voice actors, actually. So if you were invited, would you play?
Well, let me say this. If you had a phone, would you do a search for GEGGWARS, Gag Wars? Because me and this cast of Star Wars Rebels already quietly did this and put it out just kind of like for fun.
Wait a
As
minute.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I ran the game. Freddie Prinze Jr., all those fools. We play the Star Wars role-playing game. The only thing Lucasfilm asked us to not do is have them play as their characters from the show, and to make it sure that this wasn't canon, which is bull because it was canon what we did. But no, we did it. We did it as sort of a, hey, could we do this? And then going forward, we'll see if we do it more in an official capacity, because we have little talks with people here and there. I can't really say much more than that. But we literally, just for fun, just were like, let's do that. None of us were making any money off it. We were just like, let's do it. So if you go on, I think it's YouTube, if you go into Gag Wars, you can see me and the cast of Rebels playing the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing game.
So once again, that's G-E-G.
G-E-G-G.
Two G's.
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah. Gag Wars.
I know what I'm going to be streaming tonight. I am elated. And you were the Dungeon Master, Game Master?
That was me, yeah.
Oh!
We had everyone but Tia. Tia couldn't make it. So we're gonna pull her in later.
Disney Plus, I don't know if you can hear me out there in the universe, but this is what your app was created for, and I will watch it diligently.
No comment. No comment.
Moving on, more questions. I saw your hand up earlier. You want to ask it now? Yeah, get it.
I think it's for William, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I know you design ships and all that. We never really got into the whole sequel trilogy of ships. I want to know what's your response of those designs, particularly the one of my personal favorites is the Resistance bomber ones. Has any of those ships inspired you to make design more ships within the Star Wars universe, or you had something in mind that they ended up using?
I would have to say no. I am sorry. I've spoken to a couple of people about and shown some of my designs, but they were not used. So, other than that, I really don't have a good answer for you. I'm sorry.
Soon is the answer. Very soon. I have time for one last question.
Favorite and least favorite Star Wars movies?
Oh, such a good question. Favorite and least favorite Star Wars movie. Or not as favorite, if you don't want to say least favorite. I'll start, and I'll be controversial so everyone can be very comfortable in their answers. Clone Wars is my least favorite Star Wars movie, but only because we got a great animated TV series that kind of makes it null and void. Why do I care about it? 16 hours of glorious television to watch. And my favorite Star Wars movie, keeping it controversial. It's a tie, guys. I haven't been able to decide yet really between, gosh, no, that's a lie. I wrote which one was my favorite. But I'm going to change it today because I can. Today my favorite is 8. The more I watch The Last Jedi, the more I fall in love with it, the more I think it is a beautiful love note to everything that's come before. Sets us up for so many beautiful new adventures in the future. I think it's daring and brave.
These things now, so I feel like that's my responsibility. Favorite though, I will unabashedly agree with my colleague here. The original, Star Wars Episode 4. Because that's the one that goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour. Does it go the deepest? No. Does it have the biggest, snazziest fight scenes or, space battles and that? No. But it is the one that started with nothing. There were no Wookiees. There were no protocol droids, no R2-D2, no C-3PO, no laser swords, no space wizards, no Darth Vader, no Death Star, no X-Wings, no TIE fighters. Modern movies are lucky if they have 1 or 2 of these iconic elements. Hell, Krull had the glaive, and they thought that was amazing. Beastmaster, he could talk to animals. They're like, this is, we got something here, guys. Star Wars had how many iconic things that have become part of the vernacular of pop culture history and has informed upon every movie that is made since. And so how can you beat the movie that invented all of it in one movie?
Right.
One movie goes from 0, nothing. None of that existed. Nothing at all. No Millennium Falcon. Nothing. And
Plus
then
the sound effects and John Williams' music.
no John Williams music, no themes, no nothing. People say that his best score for the Star Wars movies was this movie or that movie. It'd be like, what about the one where he invented what the Star Wars theme was? The Luke Skywalker theme, the main title, the Force theme, how did he do this? How did any of them do any of this, especially for the money that they had, which was nothing? I think it's hilarious that with, Rogue One, they're spending $200-300 million to recreate the feel of a movie that was made for a chicken sandwich. So Episode 4, absolutely. That's my favorite.
Unbeatable answer, William.
All right.
There's no wrong answer.
No, there's no wrong answer. However, okay, but you're going to put me on the spot. I'm going to have to say my least favorite is The Last Jedi.
You're all wrong, and that's okay.
But the thing is, had such amazingly fantastic nerd conversations with people who love it and don't love it. It's kind of like, I heard an analogy recently, is like when somebody defending fans who didn't like something, it's like when your sports team, you're a big sports fan, and you want them to go to the World Series, and in your mind, the film didn't. And so I've had some really great nerd conversations about why it is or isn't a good film. So I will, even though it is my least favorite, I'm sure we would have a hell of a great conversation about why it is or isn't. So there's that.
Absolutely.
Favorite film, I want to say Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
But I have to...
Good choice.
The fans agree with you. We got to clap. Someone's like, we've been waiting.
I got an applaud line. Excellent. However, I do have to agree with him to an extent. To give another anecdote, I was in a writer's room once, and we were talking about pitches, getting pitches for series and stuff like that. And if anybody's out here a writer, this was one of the cool bit of random advice I got from a producer. He said, everybody wants to make The Empire Strikes Back. You can't do that until you make Star Wars first. And the whole room of writers were just like, oh, that's brilliant. And it was like, even though Empire Strikes Back is in some ways a favorite, you couldn't have done it without Star Wars first.
Well,
so it's a tie between the two of them.
Think about lead characters. Everyone wants to make Jedi Luke Skywalker, but you can't make that without Tassi Station Luke Skywalker.
Right, yeah.
You have to build it up. The guy has to fall down, get back up. Ahsoka Tano, same thing. Ahsoka does awfully early in the Clone Wars. She's messing up left and right, and then she builds herself up.
She's the best. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, guys. We do have to move on. But guys, real quick, where can they find you if they want to meet you at the convention floor? You guys have a table number? You're walking around?
I don't, but if you have any reference questions, you can look me up on Facebook, the Star Wars Historical Sourcebook. So if you have any kind of reference questions at all, I can answer those questions for you there.
Walking encyclopedia, Bob. Yes.
I'm signing. I've got to finish eating my lunch.
Give him 5 minutes to eat.
I'll be back there.
I have a table in Artist Alley, K6, and I'm also on Instagram, William O'Neill.
Great.
O'Neill 792.
Thank you guys so much. I'm Joel Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joel Monique. Thanks for being here, guys.